Good morning, guys. Welcome to my Compound Life. This is a channel where we build assets, we build habits to manage all of our assets, of course. And of course, we build freedom, and that should really be financial freedom for you, me, and anyone else that watches my channel. Good to see you all. This is another episode of Bitcoin Daily Video for the 5th of January 2026, and Happy New Year. If this is the first time you're watching my video, please remember to hit the like, hit subscribe, turn on notification. I'm on X. If you want to follow me, go to X and type in my Compound Life, and you should be able to easily find me. And of course, I'm really low in my subscriber count, so if you guys can follow and let me know who you are, the new followers, let me know in the comment section. And I do enjoy the interaction, because otherwise it just simply feel like it's me by myself talking to the mic, talking to the camera. So yes, do leave me a comment whenever you've got time. Okay, so let's start with price action for Bitcoin. Price for Bitcoin now is around 92,600. Bitcoin has been trading around 90,000 to 93,000 in the past 24 hours, right? At least we broke the 90,000, guys. It, of course, went up a small 1 to 2%, starting from about 91,000, hitting a high near around 93,300 and a low of 90,500. We are, however, still 27% away from previous all-time high of 126,000, right? I bet many of you are just hoping that let's make 2026 a good year, right? Everything pump, metal pump, stocks and shares pump, S&P 500, NASDAQ, everything pump except for Bitcoin and crypto. Let this be a Bitcoin and crypto year. That's what you guys thinking. I'm sure about that, right? Because I'm hoping for the same too. But having said that, I do have reservation, right? I'll tell you why in just a moment. Anyway, this tiny little movement, small up in the last stage, shows some buyers are coming back after a very long time. Or essentially it could mean more traders are coming back from their holiday, right? But it certainly gives a good indication that the market's feeling better after the fear, right? Because we have been retracing for, it has been very choppy for quite many weeks. And of course, I did talk about we're expecting a breakout, and this essentially is the breakout, and it does seem we might go higher, right? It does seem we might go higher, and that's a good news, right? But having said that, there's always a possibility that we might go back down, right? This could be a dead cat bounce. So we will see. But of course, I think with more of the news about liquidity coming back, quantitative easing coming, rate cut coming, it could be bullish after all for 2026. But we shall see. But of course, I think great for the bear. So if you the bear, just hit the like, let me know who you are, leave a comment please. And of course, plenty of short squeeze, short-term bullish definitely for us, the bear, but it definitely liquidated a lot of great for the bull and bad for the bears, right? So yeah, short-term very bullish. It definitely liquidated a lot of shorts. Approximately in the past 24 hours, $140 million worth of short got liquidated. So overall, I think short term is good. It's bullish. But I still see somehow it's slightly neutral, right? Because bear in mind, although we have reclaimed our 50 days simple moving average, the resistance now for Bitcoin is still around 92,000 to 95,000, right? As you can see, we're trying to break through 92,000. We are getting some resistance here. I think eventually we have to break that 95,000 in order for us to to become more excited, become more bullish, right? So right now it's just hodl and wait, as there are still plenty of people, plenty of investors still cashing out, and they're cashing out between the range of 92,000 to 95,000, right? Until we break that 95,000, let's not be overly bullish. And of course, I think so far, Bitcoin has its longest daily winning streak in 3 months, up 5 days in a row now. So essentially, winning streak means, price up each day close. And this is happening in early 2026. So it is very positive. It is a sign of bullishness because it shows momentum's building, and Bitcoin buyers are slightly back in control, right? And of course, Bitcoin, it flashed a fresh golden cross. Okay, so yes, this is not the typical 50 days over 200 days moving average golden cross, but on the current price of Bitcoin, it certainly has gone past the 50 days moving average, right? So in a way, previously it was more downwards movement. So it crosses 50 days sometime in October 26. And then now our daily Bitcoin price movement has crossed back on the 50 days moving average, right? So we will need it to definitely cross back the 200 days moving average, as well as for the 50 day simple moving average line to cross back with the 200 days moving average. That will definitely indicate very, very bullish momentum ahead. Okay, so one thing at a time, let the Bitcoin price cross the 50 days moving average, and gradually, when liquidity comes in, when there are more bullish news that comes in that hype up the market, eventually the 50 days moving average will cross that 200 days moving average. So that would be a very, very strong indicator that bulls are back in control, and hopefully we should have better days ahead. Another thing that I want to cover this morning will be the Bitcoin 4-year cycle chart. Not this one. Okay. So this chart, I'm not sure whether you guys seen it. I'm sure many of you guys have seen it. So this is why I'm still debating myself every single day. Do we still follow the 4-year cycle, or do we not follow the 4-year cycle? Because it does seem so. Pay attention onto the white line. Essentially, it indicates this cycle measuring from the low to the low, right? And essentially, the gray out zone here that's measured from here to here, this indicates Bitcoin topped. Okay, so we obviously this time around topped around the same time as the previous few Bitcoin cycle. So you can see, this is for the white line is for 2022 to the 2025 cycle. The blue one is for 2018 to 2022, and the yellow one is 2015 to 2018. And it does seem it follows it quite strictly. for this cycle, right? If the expectation is for the year 2025, they will not be further pump. They might be. It should rightfully be going downtrends towards a bear market. So if that's the case, then that means the 4-year cycle remain intact. It remained the same. It still goes through the 4-year cycle. However, if we do somehow make another high here, right? Make another high, that essentially indicates that, the 4-year cycle is broken. So we shall see. But for now, this is why I always tell you guys to have a hollow back as well as swing back, because Bitcoin is an asset that essentially you want to keep for a long time. Maybe keep it for your kids, for your grandkids, whoever, right? Your families, that really matters. And of course, you got a lifestyle that you want to keep up with, right? So this is where the swing back comes in. So this is why every now and then, I do try and buy low and sell high. And essentially this indicates that we are currently going lower, and any of such will essentially just be another dead cat bounce to me. So that's why I think it's quite important for us to still bear this in mind, especially the people that follows me on my channel that wants to know when to get out of their swing back. So do bear that in mind, as this could just be another dead cat bounce, and we can potentially go lower from there. So bear that in mind. Okay, take a quick look at the Fear and Greed Index. Fear and Greed Index. At present, we are around 27 for Fear and Greed. I think it's definitely an improvement, because yesterday we are at around 26. So far, I think we have been more in the fear and extreme fear zone. Hopefully, I think, with 5 days of greens, essentially we should have more fear zone in the coming week, and hopefully get us onto the neutral zone. A quick look at the Bitcoin return so far. Let me refresh that. So far, Q1, only the 5th day, guys. We are so far a positive 5.35 return for Bitcoin for January. Yes, it's 5.35, obviously. And we kind of have recouped pretty much everything from December low, at least, right? So let's hope. And usually January we are pretty bullish, it does seem. And actually we are above average and above the median percentage. So Q1 historically should be pretty bullish for Bitcoin too. Okay, Q1 and Q2, right? At least Q1 and Q2. So any of the gains can actually be made in Q1 and Q2, and then followed by a Q3, maybe a small dip. And knowing the fact that this would be a midterm election in the US, I think that would be sometime in November the 8th, November the 3rd or November the 8th, I can't remember. But I do foresee that when we are getting towards that specific date, sometime in November, Bitcoin will definitely get a bit of control, reclaim back some of the losses. Or not Bitcoin, or it could just be, stocks and shares, right? You never know. Anyway, that's the fear and greed index. That's the Bitcoin return. And let's quickly take a look at ETF inflow or outflow. The fact that there's no trading over the weekend, what I wanted to highlight is, check that out, guys. What a remarkable inflow for last Friday, 2nd of January. $471 million worth of inflow. Check that out. The reason I'm showing this, just to recap, let you guys know how great Bitcoin did last Friday, right? Look at all of the bearishness, right? Even on the 30th, although it did 355 million, and then immediately the next day, everything got sold off, right? So to me, these are all bearish. And then one bullish one, 471 million. And largely all due to IBIT from BlackRock and Fidelity, 88 million for FBTC. Okay, so we will see how ETF perform, I think later today when the market open. Okay, so now let's move on to news that moves Bitcoin price section. Okay, first thing to cover, CME gaps. There are two gaps that has now been formed. One is the weekend gap around 90,500 to 91,500, right? I think that gap can easily be covered. So anything news that comes out, any huge seller from ETF, any new, or as soon as market open, right? That specific gap I can easily, be covered. And of course, the second gap would be the 1st of Jan gap around 88,000 to 88,700, right? That's a very, very steep gap. And do have the expectation that, CME gap tends to get filled 80 to 90% of the time. It, of course, doesn't get filled immediately the next day. It can be left unattended for a few days, a week, a month or so, right? So, guys, do bear in mind the CME gap. It will be revisited, okay? So, yeah. So don't get too bullish. Don't go all in on longs, etc. And just be careful on this. Or it could, if you're new to my channel, if you just recently started your journey with Bitcoin, this would be a good time to accumulate, I guess, with so much bullishness ahead, right? I mean, I want to be bullish too, right? But to me, I mean, the 4-year cycle over, and then now we're kind of heading into a bearish situation. So any buys right now should really not be huge buys. And even if you buy big, there should really be some expectation to come out from it, from your swing back at least, in a short period of time. Because I think if we follow through the 4-year cycle, yes, the high would be sometime in October last year. And then now we should be going into a bear market. But with so much things going on, like rate cut, Trump's stimulus check, new Fed coming in, that would be more pro rate cut. Infinite amount of liquidity coming in because of the Fed's continuously printing of money. And of course, Trump has to make the midterm election looks really, really positive. So there are so many catalysts for 2026. It's hard to really stand the ground to say that we are entering a bear market because Bitcoin follows through the 4-year cycle. So that's why, keep a hodl back as well as a swing back, and continuously add on to your hodl bag, but if you have to live off certain income through buy low, sell high, then in that case, have the expectation that maybe we may have a good dead cat bounce. Maybe we get back to the recent all-time high of 126,000 or even higher, but have the expectation that 2026 will, after 2026, will bring us towards a bear market for Bitcoin, at least. Okay, that's my take. Of course, that's not financial advice. Do your own research, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so other news that can move Bitcoin price. I think US operations in Venezuela. It's big world news. Everyone's looking at that. Even China. I think China, Russia wrote to the US and said they're not allowed to do that. They should release release the guy. But anyway, it's a big win for the US. So congrats to all the US viewers. You know, maybe that can help ease off some of the US debt. So yes, big win for the US that took in all the oil. I think it's estimated around $17 trillion. And of course, US took all the Bitcoin too, right? Venezuela, interestingly enough, actually has one of the largest Bitcoin holder through seizure, right? So look at this. Approximately Venezuela held around 600,000 Bitcoin. Just to give you some context, who are some of the largest holder? Satoshi Nakamoto, you know, he held over 1,100,000 worth of Bitcoin. You can essentially just consider that as gone, or what do they call it? Burned Bitcoin, right? Like no one can get access to that. We don't even know who Satoshi is, right? So that's Satoshi's gift to everyone that holds Bitcoin, right? So that 1,100,000 Bitcoin is gone. And of course, I report on the ETF on a daily basis because we need to see how much BlackRock, the ETFs, are buying in terms of Bitcoin. So BlackRock itself is also another huge holder for Bitcoin at around 770,000 Bitcoin. So that's a lot. And of course, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, he's been constantly buying Bitcoin. I think over the weekend, he also tweeted that he's about to have another buy for Bitcoin. I think soon we will know how much. So Strategy itself, they held over 672,000 worth of Bitcoin. And this is where Venezuela comes in at 600,000 Bitcoin. And they're even well above US government. And of course, Venezuela, it's seizure, right? Because of the drugs cartel. They seize the Bitcoin. And of course, followed by US government, followed by Mt. Gox, etc. Right? So they're actually an even bigger Bitcoin holder versus the US as well as China, right? So in that case, this is a good seizure for the US. Yeah, imagine if US starts to confiscate all of that Bitcoin and add that up to the US government. That will bring them to close to 1 million worth of Bitcoin. Interesting. Let me know in the comments if you find this interesting too. So yes, I think Bitcoin definitely price move huge after the event on Saturday morning. Yeah, well, at least for Saturday morning at my time, right? So we will see how it goes in markets open today. You know, like all of this big news, US tend to do all of this big action over the weekend when the market kind of closes, right? And I'm sure the heaps of insiders trading, so that by the time market opens, they will all be in good position to harvest that. But anyway, one of the viewer, what's his name? He left me a comment on yesterday's Bitcoin Daily video. His name is AM Junior. M Junior, right? So he made a comment about 2 hours ago. It's pumping because the people know that Bitcoin and crypto can't be confiscated by the supreme leaders. The trust is gone. Billionaires knows it. Absolutely, right? But anyway, look at this. Look at this. M Junior, look at this. Make sure whatever you do, it doesn't get confiscated. Make sure it's safe. Make sure your cold wallet, hardware wallet, it's locked up somewhere that no one can get access to it apart from you, right? You need to make sure you can get access to it too, right? So yes, Bitcoin, it's a great protection, but also knowing the protocol to store it correctly, also very, very important. Okay, other news that could affect the Bitcoin price, the global macro events this week. There will be the US labor market data. Background, key US jobs reports out will definitely affect Fed's decision on rate cut. If it's weak, maybe rate cuts for January. If it's strong, maybe the rate cut will, maybe delayed. So we will see. So a recap, a reminder, the next FOMC meeting will be on the 27th and 28th of January, so in a few weeks' time. And of course, another report that's about to come out that could potentially affect the Bitcoin price too, and could potentially affect rate cut as well as quantitative easing, right? That's the PMI report that will come out very, very soon in a few hours' time. The PMI data that's about to be released will be the ISM manufacturing PMI for factory. So last Friday on my daily Bitcoin video, I've covered that was on the January 2nd video, I believe. So that was for another PMI type. That's the S&P Global PMI report. So this specific ISM report is this is the key one. Because it would gives indication whether Fed definitely want to cut rate or even apply more quantitative easing into the market. So yes, definitely can affect the Bitcoin price. And of course, other news, I think very, very positive news. Institutions, corporate treasuries buy big again. Bank of America is recommending 4% portfolio in Bitcoin and crypto. So big US banks now tell clients to put up to about 4% in crypto. I think it's a very, very important announcement because anything that comes out from Bank of America becomes a playbook for everyone, right? So this becomes a mainstream advice, mainstream instruction or playbook that brings in new money into Bitcoin. So very, very bullish for Bitcoin, not in the short term because it takes time to rotate. However, very bullish for the longer term, right? Imagine everyone will have at least 4% in terms of, in their portfolio that holds Bitcoin, right? Other interesting news section. Bitcoin core developers, it's up about 135 developers, up from 100. So that's good. More people code on Bitcoin software, essentially making the network much more stronger. essentially also indicates a lot more adoption on Bitcoin technology itself. Hence, that's why it's going up, right? There, I'll let you guys see my face more. Other more hopium news. If you guys like hopium, which I am sure many of you guys love hopium, but in reality, in my channel, I kind of give you hopium and along with some of the bearishness too, because I want to make it as realistic as possible. I don't want to always come in bullish, and when Bitcoin dip, the influencers, the social media, the videos, the vloggers that you see, they just keep quiet, right? So I want to give you guys the reality, because I've got heaps of skin in the game too, that I also invest in Bitcoin, and I kind of rely on all of this information to help me to make that decision specifically on my Bitcoin hodl bag as well as my swing bag. So FYI. So not all hopiums are great. Okay, so hopium news. Robert Kiyosaki say save gold, silver, and Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the rich dad, poor dad author say not to save in fiat, but to save in hard asset. Will you guys take his advice? And how much of his advice will you actually be taking? So let me know in the comment section. Will you be buying across gold, silver, Bitcoin, and Ethereum? Or you simply just sticking with Bitcoin? Just let me know in the comment section. Please let me know, right? Just type Bitcoin or gold plus Bitcoin or gold plus Bitcoin or silver, right? Whatever. Just let me know in the comment section. More hopium news. A large whale bought big. Whale bought over 2.5 billion Bitcoin in the past 24 hours. That's a single buy of 7,194 Bitcoin. Imagine you and I have to buy 0.001 Bitcoin at a time, and this whale just came in and bought 7,194 Bitcoin. So well done. And we shall see more of such stacking, because it does seem, as soon as we kind of flip back into the bullish momentum, whales are coming back. Another whale accumulated 270,000 Bitcoin, not US dollars worth Bitcoin, but 270,000 worth of Bitcoin. That's worth well over $23 billion. So this specific whale accumulated for the past 30 days, right? So obviously this whale knew something. That was, he or she knew that that's the bottom. I've got to stack more. The fact that I've got so much money, this would be my kind of pound cost average or DCA strategy, like stacked 30 days, right? So good for that whale. More hopium if you care. I think more whales bought 3.5 billion Bitcoin in 10 hours, right? So this could be a coordinated whale movement, random whale, but well over 10,594 Bitcoin, right? Not $10,594 or pounds, but in Bitcoin terms. So we'll see whether the bottom is really in and we are getting into a very, very bullish momentum soon. So bear in mind, there's the CME gaps that we still need to cover, right? There are two of them, right? The lowest one is at around 80,000, I believe. 84, let me see. Let me check my data again. CME gap. Yeah, the lowest is at around 88,000. Okay, so bear that in mind. And of course, I think until we have kind of breakthrough 92,000 and 95,000 barrier, because that's where the heavy selling are happening, right? A lot of weak hands, they cannot hold anymore, right? They simply just have to sell. I haven't sold yet my swing bag. FYI, I would never sell my hodl bag. At least for my swing bag, I'll not sell. No, at least for my hodl bag, I will not sell. At least for my swing bag, I will consider selling. I'll just need to see whether we can break through that 95,000. If yes, then I think that would be a good time to take some profits. Okay, not to sell, or like how I tell you guys all the time, you dollar cost average, pound cost average in, and you dollar cost and pound cost average out. Okay, that's the best way to do it. So for the past 24 hours, it's very positive. We do see very positive momentum. A lot of it may be driven by Venezuela, right? But we'll see. I think a few important news report are coming out this week, so we shall see how Wall Street reacts. And that's it. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Remember to drop a like, hit subscribe, turn on notification. Let me know in the comment section. I'm really low in my subscriber counts, so please subscribe. I drop daily Bitcoin video, and I drop Alpha 2 on X, so hit me up on my Compound Life on X too. And that's it, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.